I said, oh yeah.
And it was Dino Roger. That's the biggest troll. So I'm like, bro, I'm not saying over, brother. So I forgot to youse in these packs. Forgot youse.
Oh, I thought someone joined.
You pull? Yo, you pull? If you don't know about Deco by now, root way, check out the. Okay, I'm not looking. We're
I'm going. Are you tired?
A little bit.
I'm not tired.
Nigga, you woke up late.
Someone said hi.
So I must say hi.
She said hi.
You hooked your phone, your microphone up?
Yeah. Sarat said he wanna come over this weekend.
You gotta ask his mom. And then, I don't know, because Rafina might be here.
Oh.
It depends.
If they don't come, can someone come?
If they don't come. And he gotta ask his mom, and I'm not playing no games like you. Like, I'm not for all the games and stuff.
Back to back. Come on, baby. Back to back. Okay, no. Jesus, any current.
She said Ricky and them might come over, or you probably can come over, but you have to ask your mom. And my mom's not with those games. No, but your mom don't. Like, she said you can come over, then last minute she said don't come up, you can't come over. That's hurt. I'll join GTA. He doing the most. Well, I'm gonna watch it. This guy named Devil Struck.
As I was pointing my gun at the bank worker, asking her to fill my bag with money, I heard a ticking sound. I looked around nervously. Then I shouted at her to hurry up. And that's when I caught her looking at my gun, then looking back at me. I started sweating. I was very anxious. However, things got worse when I noticed where the ticking sound came from. It was my gun. It was dripping water. Busted. That's what I thought. At that moment, I realized that the employee must have noticed it, and that's why she was looking at me with that weird look. I could feel the tension in the air while looking around. I could tell people around me were afraid. And honestly, so was I. I yelled at the worker to give me the bag while still pointing the gun at her. This time, I was sure
you're not online.
Fake. Yet, to my surprise, she threw the bag in my direction and whispered in a low voice.
Well, you didn't invite me
I
there.
froze for a moment. What? Why? I thought to myself again. I saw her rolling her eyes toward the back door as if she was giving me directions where to go. Without having a second thought, I grabbed my bag and ran as fast as possible. You're probably as confused as I was. Well, if you want to know what happens next, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Otherwise, my water gun will appear in your dreams. I was hiding changed my clothes, transferred the bag of money to the new car, and went back to the bank I robbed. You might think that I'm crazy, but what the worker did was crazier. I couldn't risk letting her go, so I came back planning to kidnap her. Yes, you heard it right. I had to go that far because I had no choice. It was either jail or committing another sin. Who knows what she might say to the police? I waited until the mess was calm and saw her walking out of the bank. I followed her silently and carefully until we arrived at a parking lot underground. I was about to make my move when I suddenly...
Step 1, open the bed of jeans.
You scared me,
Get in on
man.
the action. And step 3, get it.
I didn't know you was on another room.
Now, you've been in the big leagues.
Only heard her voice saying, "You don't have to do it. I'll come with you." She turned in my direction as I was staring in shock. "How did you know? Who are you?" She replied, "We don't have time. Where's the bag?" I said, "We? No, there is no we. Just tell me, who the hell are you? And what do you want?" She came closer to me. She wasn't afraid at all, which made me terrified. And what she said next made me lose my mind. She explained that there's a GPS tracker in my bag, and as soon as I open the bag, it'll work. She knows exactly where it is, and she can destroy it. If not, the police will track me down and arrest me. I was speechless. I asked her why she was helping me while handing her the bag when she said,
Two people joined my line.
"What?" I replied shocked. "I want half the money. I'm risking my
One,
life, my future. I'm
Three joined my line.
and besides, I just saved you from making another mistake by kidnapping me." Honestly, she's right. If it wasn't for her, I would have been rotting in jail right now. But 50% is a lot. I can't promise her something like that. I remained silent for a few seconds. I just couldn't say no because she might expose me. So I just answered, "Deal." And she actually destroyed the GPS into small pieces. She just did it. I mean, how could she trust me that fast? I was so curious and puzzled about that girl. I mean, I know she asked for half of the money, but why? Why is she doing such a thing? I knew there was something behind what happened because no one would risk their life for no reason. I know I did it because of a strong reason. You see, for all my life, I've been a poor kid. Though it didn't bother me at first, life had to prove me wrong. At first, money didn't mean anything to me. I saw how rich children were treated, and I definitely didn't want to be treated the same way. I had my own freedom. I was able to appreciate the simplest things in life and value everything I had. Until one day, I desperately wished to be one of those kids. My father fell sickbed, and I stood there unable to help. I worked day and night, but still didn't get enough money to afford his surgery, and he needed it as fast as possible. I'm not trying to justify what I've done, but I decided to rob a bank with a fake gun. Now, you might wonder why a fake gun, and that I could have been caught. Well, true, my plan was too risky, but I had no other choice. When I decided to rob the bank, I had two options. Either to rob...
Type 2 diabetes isn't easy, but if you're the type to try hard to lower A1C, Steglagen is built to build on your efforts. One daily pill that combines two proven medications that work in 3 different ways. It helps your body create less sugar, make more insulin, and remove some sugar.
Steglagen is used with diet and exercise to help lower blood sugar levels in adults with type 2 diabetes. Serious side effects can happen, including pancreatitis, which may be severe and lead to death. Other serious side effects include dehydration and genital yeast infections in men and women. Before you start taking Steglagen, tell your doctor if you have ever had heart failure or problems with your kidneys. Ketoacidosis is a serious side effect that may be fatal.
She do got
Kidney
YouTube
problems
channel.
sometimes requiring dialysis have been reported, as have serious urinary tract infections.
She act like I got. She act like she got more views than me, and she got a good YouTube channel. Girl, sit down.
Stop taking Steglagen and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this bacterial infection. Other serious side effects include low blood sugar, serious allergic reactions, severe joint pain, and skin reactions. Do not take Steglagen if you are allergic to ertugrulin, sitagliptin, or any of the ingredients in Steglagen. Stop taking Steglagen and call your doctor right away if you have any symptoms of a serious allergic reaction. Your doctor may do blood tests before and during treatment to check your kidneys. If you are the type to not give up,
Alright.
your doctor about
Getting
Steglagen.
up my nerves. I probably took a I too had 2K21 because you would have been playing with me.
away or to get caught. If I what's left to charity because my intentions were good and I only wanted to help my father. If I got caught, I would spend some time in jail convincing myself that I'd tried every possible way to help him. Yet, fortune wasn't on my side, and I'll be able to eat and sleep for free for a while. I just got tired from all the double shifts I had. I know it sounds silly. However, sometimes you just do things without thinking about the consequences, and after that, you realize how dumb you were. I bet it's happened at least once to each one of us. But what I didn't expect was Diana's interference and her turning my plan upside down. That girl is hiding something. She helped me for a reason, and I wanted to know why. We drove for what seemed like 5 hours until we arrived at my secret place. I lived in a small, abandoned caravan in the middle of the woods. At first, I hesitated whether to expose my secret home to her or not. However,
No, show me you on
I had to
her.
trust that mysterious girl. When we arrived there, I showed her around, and she seemed happy. She looked kind of cute while smiling. I tried to get some answers out of her, yet she was stubborn. She said, "I bet your reason is stronger than mine. I mean, having the guts to rob a bank with a water gun?" While grinning at me, I got up to make us some coffee while thinking of a way to get rid of her, when I suddenly got a phone call. Don't worry, I don't have a smartphone, which could easily
Savannah,
get me
you don't
arrested.
show
It was a
me.
phone that
You don't show me.
its number. It was a phone for emergencies. My dad's case got worse. He
Oh.
told me that he saw my face
I thought you said
on the
you was
news.
in.
I felt ashamed to hear his crying voice blaming himself over the phone. Yet I assured
Oh,
him
I might have to look at it.
However, while apologizing to him, I heard someone screaming. It was a nurse calling the doctor saying that the patient's condition had gotten worse and he needed a doctor immediately. I heard the machine's voices over the phone and I couldn't do anything. I stood there, waiting patiently, crying and calling his name, hoping that he'll be okay. At that moment, I realized how bad I messed up. I knew that he needed the surgery sooner than ever, but my problem was how to get to the hospital and pay the money. I'm a wanted man. As I went back and forth, biting my nails out of stress, I heard Diana saying, "I'll do it." I stared at her shockingly, and then she said, "I want to be part of your plan. I can help you, and I'm sure that you need my help."
Oh, say
Trust me,
this.
you have nothing to lose after
I'm
all.
coming.
I was extremely confused. Why? Why would you risk your life even more? I asked, when she interrupted me saying, "But you have to trust me and stop asking questions, and I'll tell you everything when I'm ready." I had no choice but to agree. I told her my story and how I had to do the whole thing because of my father's surgery. While talking, I noticed that she had been trying hard to hold her tears from falling down on her rosy cheeks. I didn't know how to react. I mean, she seemed like a tough girl, yet fragile at the same time, mysterious, yet empathetic. She left me confused, not knowing what to say or how to react. It's a feeling that I can't even describe in words. She interrupted my chain of thoughts by saying, "Leave it to me. I'll get the money to your father." I doubted her ability. However, that Wonder Girl was able to save my father. She managed to pay for the surgery, and he was rescued. She left him a note from me saying that I won't be able to see him for a while, and left him a bunch of cash. Since that day, both of us continued our run without asking any questions. Living with her
I
was not
tried to
bad
beat you
after all.
up, but
She was
my
a great
thing didn't
partner.
want to work.
But a couple of months later, many things
I'm
have
coming.
changed. The first thing is that I fell for Diana.
I'm coming
I
to
liked
you.
her and wanted to date her.
I killed your
However,
boy.
what kept me from doing that was the second thing I discovered. During our run together, I saw her
What?
change. She got fatter almost every day, and she had gone through plenty of physical changes. At first, she said that she broke her diet, and she's getting
Yeah,
insanely
definitely.
fatter from the unhealthy food we were eating. Yet,
That
when her
cops is
belly
on.
bump appeared, it was hard to deny the fact that she might be pregnant. Turns out, she was. She was finally able to speak and share
Might as
her
well
story
kill
with me.
myself.
She told me that she lived with her parents, and they are originally from another
What?
country. Therefore, they have different habits and traditions.
I
For
died.
instance, she can't live on her own
Hold
until
up.
she gets married. And
Let me
she
get my
can't pregnant
motorcycle.
without getting married first, but it happened. As soon as her boyfriend found out, he called her bad names and accused her of cheating. He refused to
Okay.
confess that he was the father of her child. She was desperate and terrified. She had no idea how to face her parents, and abortion costs a fortune. Plus, to her,
Stop
having
playing
an abortion
with
is a bad solution.
Or you
That day,
pop.
while she was at work, she felt like having a nervous breakdown. She was pressured and had no idea what to do with her life. Until suddenly, she heard my voice shouting at her to give me the money. Though it should have been a terrifying moment, to her, it was a saving grace. Somehow, she saw through my eyes that I'm not a bad person. And when the gun started to drop water, she was certain that I had a good reason to do what I was doing. Without thinking, she helped me, thinking that she could take half of the money and start her own life. I was shocked by her story.
No,
I felt
oh my
pity.
God.
I asked her how
People
she
work
could
my nerves.
survive and come back to her. I mean, she's pregnant and she's risking both her life and her child's. And what she told me next made my mind She said that when she saw me, the idea of escaping came to her mind. She was 100% sure that her parents won't accept her baby, and they will turn her life into hell. She was a disgrace to them. Therefore, she decided to take any decision that doesn't include living in their house. When she thought about helping me, she had two options. Either to get half of the money, or to call the police and arrest both of us. She added that life in jail would be better for her, and at least she'll be living on her own. My jaw dropped at that moment. Though it wasn't the right time for this, I felt like I was deeply in love with her and wanted to kiss her. We both had the same thoughts, and life wasn't completely fair to us. I felt as if destiny had brought us together, and that I found my other half. Suddenly, I found myself wiping her tears with my hands and getting closer to her. She looked deep into my eyes, and then shyly looked down, blushing. I lifted her chin up, and we kissed. To my surprise, she kissed me back. She liked me back. I felt victorious at that moment and wanted nothing more than that. Days went by and everything went great until Diana's condition got worse and she needed a hospital. Her water broke and she was screaming out of pain. We survived all this time by sneaking around and paying children or homeless people to get us supplies. But now I can't do that. I can't just leave Diana alone in this situation. She told me that she'll be fine, yet she wasn't able to finish her sentence. She passed out. I was in a huge dilemma about what I should do. It's like my father's situation all over again, but this time it's either jail or death. I couldn't risk her life. I mean, I started to love mine as well, and I'm not ready to give up on it and go to jail. But if I didn't, she may be in a bad situation. Or worse, she might die. That's when I decided to finally drive her to the hospital. However, when I arrived, I did the worst thing ever. I put her on the front door and ran away. I left her there on the cold ground while the nurses were running towards her. With tears in my eyes, I drove away. Yes, I was a coward. I left her there alone. Days passed and I felt suffocated. For the first time in my life, I had nightmares. The image of Diana laying on the ground, helpless, kept repeating itself through my mind. I started screaming and breaking things. I just wanted to get it out of my head. I even bought medicine to get some sleep. Since that day, my life turned to an absolute hell. I had black circles and my face was pale all the time. And what's worse is that each time I looked in the mirror, I hated myself. That's when I finally made my decision. But before making any move, I went to visit my father. I disguised myself and snuck into his room in the hospital. When he saw me, it was as if he saw a ghost. I went to his arms and cried. I told him my story, and what he said next broke my heart into a million pieces. I know you justified your robbery to save me, and I'm extremely guilty, yet thankful for what you have done. You sacrificed your life to save mine, though it should be the opposite. I know with time you might forget about robbing the bank or leaving Diana behind, but you will regret it for all of your life. And what you'll regret the most is not saying goodbye to Diana. That was my father's advice. I walked out of the hospital that night with a strange feeling in my stomach, and I decided to do what I thought was right. A few months had passed, and I was standing in front of the judge in the court. My hands were cuffed, and I saw my son with Diana through the crowd. She was sitting next to my father, waiting for the final verdict. I was accused of robbery and kidnapping a bank worker. Yet, because of my good intentions and saving her life, my sentence was reduced. Diana smiled and waved from her seat. The ring I put on her hand was shiny.
I don't like playing GTA, too.
The police officer.
GTA not even that fun.
That's around and play.
Yeah. I'm coming.
I couldn't believe what I was reading. When they find out who I really am and what I've been up to, their lives will
What?
be ruined forever. I needed to know more. This was some kind of diary. I clicked on to the next page, but that's when I heard footsteps coming up the stairs. There wasn't enough
Yeah.
time to get out of her room, so I quickly dived under the bed and held my breath. I was about to dial the house phone, so she'd have to run down and answer it. Then I could make my escape, but I never got to do that because she laid down on the bed and called someone. She was giggling like a teenager and kept saying how much she missed whoever she was speaking to. And then the worst thing ever. My little brother burst into the room and saw me. It all happened so fast, I barely had time to think about how I'd explain this to our nanny. So I just shouted, "You found me!" Then I turned to the nanny and said we'd been playing hide and seek and ran out of the room, taking my little brother with me. I didn't even wait for her response. All I knew was that I had to protect my family. Clearly we were in danger, and I was going to find out exactly who she was and what she was planning to do to us. The stuff I was reading in her diary was like something you'd see on My Story Animated. So don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date with all their latest crazy stories. I was going insane wondering what she was up to, and that whole night I could watch her whenever she was in the nursery. I mean, there were people who kidnapped children. I just wanted to know my brother was safe. They came back from their walk and were playing in the nursery. It was so cool being able to lie in my room and watch her every move. At first, everything was fine, but then she got a phone call and left my brother alone. I could hear her out in the hall, but she was whispering. She said something about how she had it and would bring it over right away. And then she said, "I love you," before hanging up. Okay, she was definitely up to something, and I was going to follow her and find out. She came to my room and asked if I was okay, and then she said she was going to go buy me some food and try to make me feel right. I thought it was just weird how she was still being so nice to me, even though she was writing in her diary that she really had eyes. I told her I was fine. I didn't hit her. But she insisted. I watched her and my brother leave from the window, and then I literally sprinted through to her room to read more of her diary. Today's diary entry was just a list of jewels, different diamonds. Oh my gosh, she must be some kind of thief. My dad worked for a diamond company, and sometimes he brought stock home to polish in his workshop. She was stealing them. I had to warn my dad, but first I had to catch up with her and my brother and see if they were really going to get me medicine. As I followed them, I realized it made so much sense. I mean, the nanny girl was stealing. She was in one day and she pretended not to see me. Who can afford a Mercedes on a nanny's salary? She was obviously selling the diamonds. How could my dad be so blind? No wonder she was so nice to us. This was probably the best job in the world for her. Suddenly I heard someone shout, "Hello!" It was my neighbor. My brother heard the noise too, and quickly turned around. I basically dive-bombed into a rose bush to avoid my brother seeing me. I would not make a very good spy, that's clear. After he turned back around, I climbed out of the bush and I felt so alone. I was covered in scratches from all the thorns, but there was no time to think about that. I had to see where she was going. After about 10 minutes, they walked into an old dilapidated building. I was seriously about to call the police, but then they reappeared and my brother was carrying flowers. I was confused. However, I did notice the nanny was no longer carrying her bag. Anyway, I had to be quick. I had to get home before they did, otherwise I'd be caught. Sure enough, when they came home, my brother gave me the flowers and said they'd been given them by a nice man. Who was this man? The person she'd been on the phone with, obviously. Later that day, after the nanny had finished her shift and was in her room relaxing, I snuck out. My mom and dad were having some kind of fight, so they didn't even notice me leaving. I went back to the old building to see what was going on inside there. It was super dark and creepy, but there was a light on somewhere. I climbed the stairs and then realized someone actually lived there. I don't know why, but I knocked. A guy answered, and I assumed he must be the flower guy. He looked annoyed and asked what I wanted, and I said I must have the wrong address. Then I quickly walked away, but not before I noticed my mom's diamond necklace on the table behind him. What was it doing there? I felt sick. What if the nanny had stolen my mom's necklace and sold it to this guy? When I got home, my parents were still fighting, and I realized it probably wasn't the best time to tell them that the nanny was stealing from them. But then I
Don't mad.
did you sell my
Like,
necklace?
how you gonna let me play GTA, but you're not
I'd
gonna
rather
be
not go then. You
fun?
know how much that necklace meant to me?
Like, this why I don't play with people. I play by myself.
I told my mom that I thought the nanny had stolen it. I expected my mom to believe me, but both her and my dad just laughed and said the nanny would never do that and that she was the sweetest woman. Then they told me to go to bed and keep my nose out of their business. The next day, we'd be heading on our ski holiday, and I wasn't happy that the nanny was
Hey, they
the flower guy had told her I'd been over to
white.
his place. But weirdly enough, she came to my room that night and was acting even nicer than usual. She said she couldn't wait to hang out with me at the spa on our trip, and I almost rolled my eyes right in front of her. She was such a liar. Later that night, I could hear her typing away on her laptop, and I was desperate to know what she was writing. I must have fallen asleep because when I woke up, the house was deadly silent, and it was the middle of the night. I knew I needed to read her diary again before our trip, so I came up with a plan. I crept downstairs and played around with the burglar alarm. The next minute, it was blaring like crazy, and I knew everyone would wake up and come running downstairs. That would give me the perfect opportunity to run into the nanny's room and read what she'd written. I went back into my room and heard everyone running down and used my chance to go to her room. I knew I didn't have long, but then I heard my dad asking where the nanny was, and I panicked. Was she not in the house? I read as quickly as I could and couldn't believe what I was reading. Abby is onto us. She's acting differently. Well, I guess the truth will come out soon. Let me enjoy this one last trip with them, and then I'll quit before they fire me. My jaw dropped, and then I heard someone approaching the room and saying, "Abby!" It was my mom. I turned around and she started shouting at me, saying I had no right to be in the nanny's room. And that's when the nanny appeared. She came running into her room and asked why we were all awake. And then my dad came and asked where she'd been so late at night. And honestly, Honestly, it was so awkward. She said she'd been visiting a friend and apologized. My dad was so angry though. I really thought he'd fire her right on the spot, but my mom told him to calm down and that we all needed some sleep before the trip. All I could think about was how she'd probably gone to get the necklace back. Maybe she felt bad about it after hearing my parents fighting. The only person excited for the trip the next morning was my brother. My parents were still arguing, the nanny was acting weird, and I was just exhausted. I sat next to my dad on the flight, and the nanny was on his other side. They didn't speak at all, and I actually felt glad. She deserved to be fired. She was a thief. As soon as she went to the bathroom, I told my dad that I really thought she was stealing stuff, and my dad said he'd watch her more closely, but that I wasn't to interfere, or I'd be grounded for the rest of the year. When we finally reached the lodge, I couldn't wait to pass out and sleep, but then my mom told me I had to share a room with my brother, and I told her there was no way. I was 16. I wanted my own room. The nanny immediately jumped in and said she'd share with me, and for a second, I didn't hate her. Maybe I got it all wrong. Well, that worked out well, because of course I packed the teddy bear with a camera, and so I set it up in my brother's room so that it was facing their beds. It hadn't proven to be very useful so far, but little did I know what it would reveal the following day. The next morning, we woke up bright and early for a full day of skiing. But as usual, my dad had to stay behind and work. He told us to have fun and said he'd try to catch up with us later. So we hit the slopes and I was having such a great time, I almost forgot we were skiing with a criminal. After lunch, the nanny said she was tired and asked if it was okay if she went back to the lodge to rest. My mom was fine with it as she was enjoying spending time with my little brother. So off the nanny went. Suddenly I had a thought. Teddy bear. I went off to the bathroom and clicked onto the app on my phone to see the latest footage. I couldn't see the nanny, but then she appeared. Except it wasn't her. It wasn't very clear footage as the teddy bear had fallen over onto its side, so I could only see the bottom half, but it looked like a man. And then the nanny appeared, and the next moment the camera went black. Someone had thrown something over the teddy. Had that man followed us here? I had to go check. I told my mom I wasn't feeling well and rushed back to the lodge. I went straight to my parents' room and knocked on the door. My dad answered and I told him what I'd seen. I said he had to fire her and report her to the police before she stole anything else, but my dad said they'd found the necklace. It hadn't been stolen. And then he told me to go lie down and that I was clearly still tired. It was so frustrating. Why wouldn't he believe me? I ran to the nanny's room thinking I could get proof, but when I knocked, it was just her there. I told her we were having a family dinner later that night and I'd see her there. Then I went back to my room feeling awkward. I took a nap and when I woke up, I decided to check the camera again. Maybe there was more footage. It was just black for a while, but then suddenly someone...
Listen, this is Tony Quinn. I'll cut straight to the chase. I heard you were a savvy investor, shall we say? Yes, I like that, a savvy investor.
Fast forwarded the camera, and then there I was, in the room telling the nanny about dinner. So that man earlier, it had been my dad. But I didn't understand. I ran straight back to my dad's room, but my mom was already back, and she looked so happy. She was wearing the necklace and said, "Look what your dad found in my bag." All I could think was how crazy this was. The nanny had actually returned it without anyone realizing. I asked my dad if he could come help me with my shower, and as soon as he was in the room, I shut the door and showed him footage